Art school, it's art school. It's like normal school, but more arty, 'cause it's
art school.
Okay, so Sin Bird has done this one, which is called Nasty Woman. It's acrylic on paper. And Gay Tate says that most of her artwork depicts strong women, just like the women in her life, past and present. Scarlett Suomi has done this amazing piece, which is a screen print of Debbie Harry, who she says is very strong and feminine. Yeah, she really is. And this is great. I mean, the number of layers and the complexity of this screen print is brilliant, especially as it's the first screen print that Scarlett's ever made. Now, for those of you that haven't met John in the community, John Renhard spends a lot of time in his garden shed making homemade rust juice and playing about with bits of metal. He says that this little friend hangs from the roof of his shed and watches him while he messes about with his power tools. This piece by Onute is amazing. She's painted Edith Beale from Grey Gardens, which is one of my favourite documentary movie weirdness things ever, so this is great. Sarah Dunkel has called this one Sacrifice, and she says that the big majority of her paintings deal with gender issues, but this one is the one everyone seems to find the most disturbing to look at. She has to be honest. It's probably also one of the most personal ones she's ever made. Julia Ehrenschek has put a few pieces on the community this week. All of them sort of deal with femininity in some way. I urge you, get over to the community, have a look at them. They're brilliant. Here's one of them that I particularly liked. Holly Moon has said, what is woman? Women's intuition. And she's made this beautiful painting. Nigel Fairbrother has painted Woman in the Sun for this week's homework, and he decided the only answer he could possibly make to this week's challenge was his own mum. Sadly, she passed away at the end of last year, and he finds it really hard to look at recent photos, but he loves the pictures of his parents from way back in the past when they were young and youthful and having fun. He says that this beach piece has a little touch of Gerhard Richter about it, which it certainly does. Jason has made this painting, which is actually of his grandma, Myla Baker. And he said that it was a bit of a challenge because since he's picked up his paints again, he hasn't made any portraits and he's a bit nervous, I think. But I think that's come out absolutely brilliantly, Jason. Scarlett Brown uploaded a piece of video work that she's made, which is taken from a series of videos that she's been making at uni, which explores her mind and identity as a young woman. And this piece is called Rejecting an Emotional Reaction, Instability. I can't play you the soundtrack because of copyright reasons, but I urge you, get on the community, watch Scarlett's video, it's really good. Jason then revisited the portrait he made of his grandmother by putting it on a light box and retracing it to make a sort of pop art grandma version. I think these are brilliant, Jason. I'd keep that series going. Saffron has said that since she had children, she realised how much they looked up to her and needed everything from her, and that she was their whole world, that they couldn't survive without her. And she says that in a way we're all reliant on the world to survive. So she's made this quick drawing with pencil and pastels on paper, and she's called it Earth Mother. Last up, Alexander Christ. He said he didn't have enough time to do this week's homework to develop this into a proper painting, but he's done a quick sketch here. And it's a drawing of Frida Kahlo. And he says that's the first female artist that he really dug into when he was younger. And he thinks that maybe there's an element of a self-portrait in this one as well. So thanks everybody for sharing your homework.
Wow, what unbelievable work. I'm so sorry, John, we forgot to turn my microphone on, but I mean, hopefully you can hear me now. So give me a little wave or a hi if you can actually hear what I'm doing. Yeah, in case you missed the start of the show, basically, this is the last one for a while. This is the last in the series, and it's been amazing being with you. This week, we're going to look at art and theft, and we're going to talk about that in detail. So what does it mean to actually steal something? And what about this intellectual property idea of our ideas and how valuable they are, or whether we should share them, how we could kind of use them or utilize them. You know, Picasso famously said, good artists create, great artists steal. and he seemed to kind of know what he was doing. However, you've got to look at it a bit like this. I think about it a bit like a bike. If I had a bike and you stole my bike, I would no longer have a bike. But when we talk about intellectual property, if you make a copy of something I've made, I've still got the thing. You haven't actually stolen it from me. And this was a big debate that happened around music because people made copies of music and the original person who created it still had the original. So what did it do? It kind of disseminated the music, got it out there. Was it theft or was it sharing? And this is a really contentious area. I've done talks about this and I've been booed off stage by people literally calling me a parasite for using existing stuff. So I know this is a bit of a hotbed and some of you will probably go along with what I think and others of you will go absolutely against it. Now, for me, it's important to put it into context. We've got to delve into art history a little bit. And one of the most important, if not the most important thing that happened in recent art history was this, when Marcel Duchamp put a urinal in an art gallery. And that made a really, really big point. Yes, it was funny and it was witty and he signed it "Ah Mutt" and it was all the way back in 1917 and he did it to annoy the Academy. But what it did was it said that the artist didn't have to be the author of the thing. They didn't have to create something new. They didn't have to create something from thin air. They could literally move something, a ready-made thing, from somewhere into art. And by doing that, because they were an artist and had an intention, it would actually be an artwork. Now that carried on after that point with people like Andy Warhol actually taking images that already existed, like this one of Marilyn Monroe. Andy didn't make this image. He used an existing image of Marilyn and moved it into art. He didn't create anything new. He just moved it. Likewise with his amazing picture of the electric chair. This was from I think it's from a newspaper that he found and he reproduced it. And again, his iconic images of Elvis Presley. He did not photograph Elvis, but he did recontextualize Elvis by moving Elvis into art. And the point with Andy was, he said he wished he was a machine. That wasn't so he could spit out loads of work and make loads of money. Andy wanted to be a machine so that he wasn't involved in the process, that he wouldn't dirty it, degrade it. He didn't want to be an artist in the way of these images. So it's really important for his work that he can use existing elements. And this has carried on all the way up until recently, where Richard Prince showed his series of selfies, which he downloaded off Instagram, and we looked at those a few episodes ago. But he literally downloaded them, printed them out, put them in Gagosian Gallery, made them very expensive, and a lot of people had a lot of problems about that because there's copyright issues. People have taken those photographs. They own the rights of them. Richard Prince didn't ask. And it came to court and it all kicked off, and unfortunately they settled out of court. But it would have been lovely if that battle had played out and we could have seen if the court thought that doing it for artistic reasons, for a critical reason, for a satirical reason, was a valid reason for an artist to use it. Are artists above the law? Now, I make this argument that the world we live in is a cultural world, an image world of mixed media stuff, and artists paint what's around them. So back in the day, Van Gogh painted a windmill or a field. Our world now is music videos, TV, adverts, that kind of thing. And artists should be free to bring that stuff into art, think about it, criticise it, and use it in their stuff. Now that annoys a lot of people, but the fact is that the law is not necessarily on the artist's side. There is a copyright law. So you make something, a piece of art, a photo, and you instantly have copyright, and that lasts for 100 years. And it's up to you who you let use it. People can't just use a reproduction of your work without asking. And you've got moral rights as well about how it's cropped, how the colour's reproduced, how you're credited if someone uses it. And all that stuff is really, really important. Now, I've kind of been on both sides of this personally, because I've made work that people have used without asking my permission. And one example is this stuff, where this fashion brand downloaded all my images and they did a whole collection of 50 pieces of clothing. And they did big fashion shows around it and magazine ads, and they didn't do something a bit like my work. They literally took my work and put it on clothes without asking me. Now, why I was annoyed about it wasn't necessarily because they did a bad job. Actually, I think the clothes are pretty cool. What I didn't like about it was A, that they didn't ask, and B, that it seemed just to be about making money. I mean, they were putting my stuff on these clothes just for purely commercial gain. Whereas Richard Prince is obviously, yes, his work's for sale, but he's making a much bigger, more critical and important point, as is Andy Warhol. Now, I was on the other side of this, where another young artist called James Jessup made this amazing piece of video work in which he animated a smiley, and that was shown at Banksy's Dismaland. I didn't know about it. I'd never been there, I'd never seen it, and a few months later, I made this piece, which I call Happy Dot. And the similarity is really close, and obviously, and fair enough, James got upset. He thought that I'd gone and copied him. Unfortunately, copyright doesn't protect an idea. I can decide to paint a windmill, and so can you, and if we both have the same idea at the same time, that's okay. What copyright is for copying something, making a direct copy. You've got to take a photo of it, a print of it, you have to copy the thing. So I'm really interested, what do you guys think? Is it okay for artists to use existing stuff in their work, or should they stay clear? Coming up with your own original ideas is more important than interpreting the world around you. I would argue that there's nothing new under the sun and we can only work with what's in front of us, but I really want to know what you think. Okay, so away from the intellectual property side of this, let's talk about real theft. I've compiled a video of the top 5 art heists of all time. At number 5, it's the Mona Lisa by Leonardo da Vinci. In 1911, 3 Italian handymen hid in a supply closet overnight in order to sneak into the museum and steal the Mona Lisa. One of them, Vincenzo Paregula, was the man who had installed the protective glass over the Mona Lisa in the first place. The painting became so famous that he couldn't sell it without getting caught, so he hid it in the false bottom of his trunk until over 2 years later, when he finally tried to sell the painting. Of course, the police showed up, Paregula was arrested,
Mamma mia!
and the painting was returned more famous than ever. At number 4, 4 Dutchmen were arrested for robbing the Stedelijk Museum in Amsterdam of no fewer than 20 Van Goghs. They were recovered within an hour. The police were of the opinion that had the robbery been successful, no ransom would ever have been demanded because the canvases would simply have become financial instruments in the global black economy. 3 of the canvases were sadly badly damaged, including one of Van Gogh's visionary last ever paintings, Wheatfield with Crows. At number 3, The Scream by Edvard Munch has not been stolen once, but actually twice. Munch created 4 different versions of this piece, and 2 have been stolen. Enger was a low-level footballer, and he was actually commissioned to steal the Scream from the National Gallery on the opening day of the 1994 Winter Olympics in Lillehammer, which was in Norway. With festivities taking most, if not all, of the attention of the police, Enger and 3 accomplices needed only 50 seconds to break into the National Gallery in Oslo. Not satisfied with merely getting away with Munch's masterpiece, the thieves left a note on the wall in place of the painting, which read, "1,000 thanks for the bad security." At number 2, the Stockholm Museum in Sweden. Armed burglars stole $30 million worth of art by Renoir and Rembrandt from the Stockholm Museum. That was back in December 2000. They staged 2 car explosions nearby to distract the police. Then a gunman with a semi-automatic terrorised the museum while his accomplices grabbed a Rembrandt self-portrait and 2 Renoirs. Then the thieves escaped in a small boat.
Looking for 2 thieves who made off with a motherload of art treasure from a Boston museum overnight.
At number 1, the Isabella Stuart Gardner Museum in the United States. Just after midnight on the 18th of March in 1990, 2 men posing as police officers pulled off the heist, stealing 13 pieces of art in just 81 minutes. The thieves were disguised as Boston police officers and they demanded entrance to the museum. They told the guard on patrol that they were responding to some kind of disturbance. They drew him away from the alarm button and asked him to call his partner.
The 2 phony police officers said, "Gentlemen, this is a robbery."
The thieves then handcuffed both of them and threw them in the basement, where they duct taped their hands and feet to pipes. The bandits then stole around $500 million worth of priceless art. It is the largest art heist in history. Priceless works like Vermeer's The Concert, Rembrandt's Storm on the Sea of Galilee, and Manet's Chez Tortoni were taken, never ever to be found again. Empty frames currently hang in some of the rooms of the museum where the paintings originally hung, and tourists visit to see not the works, but the scene of the crime. A reward of $5 million was put out soon after, and this year that has been doubled to $10 million, but that offer is only open till Christmas. So if you're hoping to claim the bounty, you better get on with it. Yeah, I think I agree with John and Saffron, actually, because I think I always like to be credited, and I have a problem when money gets involved as well. But I think also I kind of like to have a say in how it's used. I mean, I think I'd feel a bit dodgy if it was used on a product I didn't like maybe alcohol or a tobacco product or something. I definitely wouldn't be cool with that. Anyway, shall we play Art or Fart?
Art or Fart? Art or Fart?
Okay, so for those of you that don't know, the way this game works is I'm going to show you three things. One of them is a bona fide, straight up, well-recognised piece of art. The other two actually aren't art, and we call them farts. So as I talk you through these, what you guys do is you let me know, are they art or are they fart? Now, first up this week, we have this, which is 2 album covers of an album by Yoko Ono, framed in a beautiful aluminium picture frame and hung on the wall of an art gallery. Okay, so Yoko Ono albums. The second is a photograph of Yoko Ono, so a black and white photograph of Yoko Ono. And the third one, oh no, it is actually just a yo-yo. So we have the yo-yo, a photograph of Yoko Ono, and the Yoko Ono album covers. Now, what do we think about the Yoko Ono album covers? I mean, they were in a gallery, they were framed, they were presented nicely. Are they art or are they complete and utter fart? What do you reckon? And the Yoko Ono photo, is it art? Lottie says it's beautiful. Yeah. Who says it's art? Claire, Saffron, you say it's art. So the Yoko Ono, this is art? Okay, and the photograph of Yoko is that art? John says it kind of becomes art. The yo-yo becomes art. Maybe it does, John, because like I'm an artist, I put it there, it's an art studio. Nigel, you say art. It's all art, isn't it? Maybe that's the point we've been trying to make all flipping series, is that whether it's art or not isn't really that important. Actually, what it is and what it's about is more interesting. Maybe that's the whole issue of the art or fart. But I will tell you that this was by Richard Prince, and Richard Prince often buys things, puts them in picture frames, and puts them in galleries. It's the same Duchampian, ready-made idea of moving something from one place to another. This was a press photograph of Yoko. Arguably, the photographer could have been an artist, but really, we just got a picture of Yoko off the internet. And this is just a yo-yo from my son's bedroom. So art, fart, and fart. Thank you. Okay, so next up, we're going to play Brilliant or Bananas.
Brilliant or bananas, bananas or brilliant, brilliant or bananas.
Okay, so the way this works is I've found something that I think could be quite brilliant, or maybe it could kind of be bananas. So we're going to take a look at that, and during the rest of the show, I want you guys to tell me, is it brilliant or is it bananas? And then at the end of the show, we'll run the barometer and find out how you voted. This is Brilliant or Bananas.
What's going on, station? We got a bad guy today. What's going on? Let's go. We're going to get it. Let's go. Hey, you man. Hey, you man. Hey, no, come.
Okay, so these guys are members of the YouTube prankster patrol station, and they decided it would be a bright idea to pretend to break into the National Portrait Gallery in London.
Get the paintings! Have you got the paintings? Have you got... I've got the... Hey! Hey, come, let's go! Get the paintings! Everyone's going! Hey,
And make everyone believe they were stealing some artworks, basically in order to make a cool video for their YouTube channel and boost their viewers. However, the whole thing absolutely backfired. They got arrested, served several weeks in prison for essentially a public order offence, i.e. freaking the public out at a time of heightened awareness due to terrorism and that kind of thing. So, guys, do you think this is a brilliant, satirical, great piece of internet video art? Or is risking your liberty and freaking everybody out completely and utterly bananas? You tell me.
A bunch of discs? I don't even know what that means. Okay, this is the bit of the show where I try my best to answer your more in-depth questions that you've sent in during the week. It's time for the crit.
It's time for the crit!
Okay, so very big question that's come in this week from Kirsty. She says that schools are being stretched. Is there really a place for art in the curriculum? What a not horrible question, but what a sad question to even ask. Of course there's a place for the arts in the curriculum. I mean, what on earth is the rest of the curriculum before if we're not making artists? I mean, I'm really shocked actually by the way arts education in general is being pulled out of education, both at primary and secondary schools in the UK. And I've met teachers who are really stressed out. They've got talented kids there. They want to get to the arts, but they're under so much pressure to deliver on the maths, English and science, and they dominate the news all the time. And I argue that actually it's our creators that make what we do great. I mean, we are, particularly in England, we're an ideas place. I mean, we came up with the internet and aeroplanes and all that kind of stuff. I mean, we need creative thinkers, and that's what they should be teaching in school. Anyway, Samuel says, what is the role of art in society? Well, can you imagine a society without art to start with? My gosh, what a grey, horrible, dull place it would be. And also, how do we know where we are, what we're looking at, who we are as a people, as a populace? I mean, art's absolutely vital. It tells us where we are in history. And also, it means that artists can criticise the situation we're in a non-censored kind of way. We can hold a mirror up to the society and show what's going on, and that's more important today than it ever has been, Samuel. Nigel has said, what's been my favourite part of art school? Oh, Nigel, it was when you came in and you bought all your art. It was just amazing. And, you know, overall, the whole thing's been a lot of fun. And getting to meet you all in the community. And if you haven't joined in the community, then Vic, can you post a link to the community so everyone can get involved? Because when this ends, which it will, we're still going to be on there. We're still going to be doing stuff. We're still going to be friends. So the fact that the community has come out of this is brilliant, because that was the whole point. Okay. Unfortunately, time's ticking on. Not everyone in the art world is as lovely and as brilliant as you lot. There are some rotters marauding round causing trouble. Shall we take a look at the smelly rotters?
They're smelly and they're rotten. They're the smelly rotters.
Okay, people, it's time for the smelly rotters, and I think you're absolutely right. Scaring old people is a no-go. In fact, scaring anyone's a no-go, and I think it's a bit bananas, but let's see. There's still a bit of the show left, and there's still more votes to come in. Okay, so smelly rotters. The way this works is, over the last few weeks, we've been adding all sorts of dirty, dastardly art world rotters to the board of rotterism. We've got all sorts, from serial killers to prime ministers, presidents' daughters, you name it, it's on there. Now, this week is no exception. We've got 3 extremely naughty, rascal-ridden rotters. First up this week is none other than your man, Adolf Hitler. Now, Hitler always wanted to be a professional artist, but he failed his entrance exam, for the Academy of Fine Art in Vienna. Now, you know, conservative estimates say that Hitler killed 11 million people. It could be a lot more. His paintings actually even now sell for $450,000 each. And to be fair on the bloke, they're not that bad. But this is Adolf Hitler, people. Where do you think we should put Adolf on the board? But I'll put him here, just underneath Anish Kapoor for now. But if you want him to go up, say Adolf up. Or if you want him to go down, say Adolf down, and then we'll solidify this a little bit. Right, next up, this is a weird one. This is a really weird one. This guy, I'm going to try my best to pronounce his name. It's Mayuran Sukumaran, okay? Now, he was born in London in 1981, so he's basically my age. And he moved to Australia, and he became bored working in the mailroom, so he decided he'd become involved in importing heroin from Bali. Now, he actually went over to Bali and was trying to do a deal to get 8.3 kilos of heroin back over. He got caught, he got sentenced to death in Bali, and he actually got killed in 2015, which I think is actually pretty sad. And his paintings that he made whilst on death row were kind of, they were interesting works, you know. I don't know. I mean, importing a bucket load of heroin, it's not nice. I'm gonna put him here. Yeah, beside Anish, Claire. Everyone reckons Hitler right at the top. Yeah, I think it's a bit of a no-brainer, isn't it? The smelliest art world rotter is probably Adolf Hitler. There's one left, though, this week. Should we have a look? We've got this guy, Henry Lucas. He was born in the 1930s in Virginia. This guy killed his own mum, all right, and at least 11 other people. He died in prison in the year 2001, so he is a serial killer, he is a mass murderer, and his paintings are flipping freaky. I mean, they really are quite spooky. He's definitely an art world rotter. I mean, there's definitely rotterism in this. Where do we think he should go? I think he's on par with Anish. Yeah, well, I don't know. I mean, Anish is Anish. He's like a law unto himself, that bloke, isn't he? I think, what do you think? Kind of in the middle? Kind of in the middle? Are we all kind of agreed? Okay, so, hang on. Right, so that is the art world's smelliest rotters. Now, we're almost out of time, but before we reveal the bananas result, I'm going to set you a final piece of homework. Now, this one, obviously we've not got a show next week, so I'm hoping you'll put your work up on the community. I'll be able to comment on it. We can all talk about it together. Yeah, Donna. Yeah, the community is amazing, Donna, and I'm amazed, and I urge everyone to get on there and share their work. Now, this week's homework is, I want you to take an image, an existing image, by someone that's not you, and I want you to move it into your art. But I want you to do it with a real intention. I want you to really think about the process of moving it from one place to another, why you're moving it, and what you are trying to convey by doing that. And I can't wait to see what you make. Okay. Shall we see if this week's, and the last ever for now, Brilliant or Bananas was Brilliant or Bananas? Liam, can you run the barometer, please?
It's bananas!
Oh, it was absolutely, completely and utterly bananas! It had to be bananas! It's totally bananas! It's totally bananas! It's totally bananas! Oh! Banana Man! Everyone, say thank you to Liam. This is Liam. Say thank you. Banana Man. Rob! Rob's brought his paint. Give it up for Rob! Lottie! Okay. It's been so much fun having you all, seeing you all every week. I'll be in the community, we'll do some specials, but we'll be back for more Art School in the new year and it'll be even better. I love you all so much. Bye!